So antivirus that basically doesn't pop up when you don't want it to. Still managing to keep you protected from whatever threats you've managed to sneak onto your computer. I will not inquire about your browsing history. And various other lovely things as well. But most importantly, it never gets in the way of gaming, which I actually find ridiculously important. So I've just replaced the antivirus I was using with the ESET antivirus for about 6 months now. And I think the highest praise I can give it is that it's invisible. It just does everything it needs to. Doesn't take apart a lot of my resources, doesn't download random updates when I'm in the middle of a game. It just does its job and does it well.
Indeed, it does. So, I believe these two players are ready to go. Oh, hang on. Our production's saying 1 minute, so we will wait for production. We'll just talk amongst ourselves about the porcupines and the
Porcupine
Batlords.
Rush, man. That's what I'm calling it.
Porcupine Rush and Batlords.
Definitely.
We need to make this trending. I don't know how we can do it, but we need to.
If there are Batlords, does that imply there's like a bat cave somewhere where they all hang out?
Yeah, there totally is. And also, the really cool thing about them is they're like that annoying kid at school who's like, look, I can fly, and everyone's like, of course you can, you're an overlord. Like, the cape did nothing to help that situation. but they believe, okay?
Overcompensating, just like really drawing attention. To be fair, overlords do tend to be quite overlooked, you know. You use them for scouting, but usually it's because you're sacking them. If you think about it, being an overlord's a little bit of a miserable life.
To be fair to the overlord, though, I cannot count how many games I have won thanks to overlords. And let's face it, Liquid Snoot arguably won ESET 2013 Season 1 thanks to overlords causing the mines to detonate on them rather than his army.
Well, yeah, I mean, overlords are the direct counter to widow mines, as we've discovered. If the ESET UK Masters at I-48 has taught us anything, it's that get overlord speed and you're completely fine against widow mines by the looks of things. But we are loaded into the game, guys. We're on daybreak for game number 3 between our challenger players, both of whom are in Grandmaster, some rising UK talent who made it into the group stages at I-48 as well. So potential for very good games coming up here, and they're tied up 1-1. In the bottom left spawning location is the red Zerg player representing Team Infused. We have none other than Jamesykins. And his opponent representing Roar Gaming in the top right-hand corner in the blue colors. We have the one, the only, the man in the dinosaur onesie. It is Phamut.
So, these two are now currently leveled out. This technically makes this now a best of 3. That is always fun times for them. They're both very evenly matched. Currently, Phamut has been the aggressor in both games. Will Jamesykins take a slightly more cautious approach? Will he be the aggressor this game? What are we going to do? Or what's he going to do?
I think he's going to have to be... Jamesykins will be significantly more wary about some sort of early game attack coming in from Phamut, I think. And I wouldn't be surprised to see game number 3 settle into a slightly longer macro game. I would like to see a potential for mutas out from both sides. We've seen a Roach Baneling all in. We've also seen a very, very fast Speedling all in. I think the players are starting to settle down now, getting into their stride, and I just don't expect this game number 3 to end very quickly.
I think it could almost certainly be a long game, as you said, because you're going to get more comfortable at this stage where you know what your opponent's doing. Jamesykins probably going to be very proactive in scouting to try and pick up on any indication that Phamut is planning to basically attack him early game. But this map lends itself to slightly longer matches anyway, just due to the long by ground rush distance, and that's something that always lends itself very nicely to that. But Jamesykins getting the spawning pool out a lot sooner than Phamut, and also getting his gas quite a bit sooner as well.
Yeah, so we're seeing a very similar opening to what we saw last game as well. Let's see if he decides to maybe put on some Ling aggression. But I suspect he's just being safe here. He wants to make sure he gets Zergling speed. He wants to be able to have that presence out on the map and be able to defend himself should any sort of rush come in. And his overlords are very, very aggressively placed at the moment. Wants to check gas timings and how much has been mined as well. So I don't foresee some sort of all-in here, especially, like you said, with the longer rush distance, thanks to that destructible debris in the middle of the map, making early game fast rushes basically not as viable here.
It's completely correct. So what is viable is going up to the mid game, getting down 4 gas quite early on, and getting down Mutalisks. Mutalisks are nice on this map because they obviously don't get stuck by the rocks or the long by ground distance, and you can really harass around. There's some dead space around the main base. There's some dead space around the third as well. So they are very, very effective. And I think that's almost certain what we're going to be seeing this game.
No, you're completely right. There's so much room for Mutalisks to maneuver around the edges of Daybreak. It's just fantastic. And even when you need to escape through the middle of the map, because of the way the top and bottom lanes, if you like, are positioned, it means that you can fly across the middle and avoid most armies, even with Hydralisk, for example, being much, much faster in Heart of the Swarm. On maps like this, where there are so many fewer avenues for ground forces to go compared to air units, Mutalisk can still be very, very versatile.
They are almost certainly going to be the choice. Currently, though, he's getting down his +1 ground carapace upgrade, which that's a nice upgrade to get if you're a bit indecisive whether you want to go for, say, Lings or Roaches, and that just means that he's going to have a good defensive slot against anything that could be thrown at him. And ultimately, the other thing you can do on this map is go for that double evolution chamber wall off at the natural, which it's something that neither player seems to be going for at the moment, but is a very good strategy on this map if you do want to try and rush up some tech.
And don't forget as well that +1 Carapace will do a lot later on too, if we see a lot of Mutalisk-based action on absorbing the bounce glaive damage from those Mutalisks, something that players in ZVZ will be thinking about all the time. So you have, for example, Zerglings, just tactically positioned underneath the Muta versus Muta battle so that they can absorb those hits from the bounce glaives and therefore give your side an advantage. And ZVZ at the end of the day, especially when you get Mutas, Metals, it's when you're just slightly ahead and you just don't realize it and your opponent just crumbles even though there are only 1 or 2 Mutas less than you, you just win games so quickly.
You do indeed, and it's little things like that which some people can overlook. That's why the ground battle is just as important as the Muta on Muta battle, so you can have those additional Zerglings or Roaches or whatever underneath to soak up some damage. Also, Queens can play in really quite effectively because a couple of well-timed transfuses on a Muta ball will just mean that actually you keep your units up, you've got the additional DPS from those Queens as well, and it can have a really quite substantial effect on how the battle goes.
So it looks like we have a little bit of a move out coming out here from Phamut there as an Overlord from Jamesykins goes down in the main base. A whole bunch of Porcupines coming across the top section of the map, seen by Jamesykins from that Overlord going towards a third base location. And the reason for this from Phamut is because he has taken his own third base back home. So what he wants to do right now is make sure he keeps his third base up for as long as possible while his opponent basically can. A couple of Banelings coming in to try and defend from Jamesykins. Phamut may be able to get out there just in time, picking apart 2 of those Banelings with only about 3 Lings, so that's pretty good for him as well. But what he really wants to do is kill a couple more workers and give him enough time maybe to get his own Spire up.
That was just a really, really nice push in, but you're completely correct, Jorasar. He's pushing forward to maintain that map dominance, allowing his third base to be secured, knowing that Jamesykins doesn't have his own third. All Phamut has to do is make sure that he doesn't die to the Mutalists that are probably going to be coming out any second from Jamesykins, and if he can hold off from that, he's fine.
There was a big problem with that though, Metals. A massive problem, which is, while Phamut was microing those Lings in towards an actual expansion of Jamesykins, his lair finished, and he basically delayed his own Spire by about, I want to say he could have put it down about 20 seconds sooner. And when your opponent was already nearly a minute ahead, oh, that drone staying alive and might be able to put down the hatch. Yeah, a little bit of a mistake there. But, Jamesykins had his Spire down already 50 seconds before the layer finished from Phamut, so he really didn't want that delay.
That delay could be quite substantial. Currently though, and luckily, there is only now 6 Mutalisks on the field, so that is a bit of an advantage, but Phamut is not out of this yet. He needs to Spire up fairly soon though. He's getting some Spore Crawlers, which of course will be essential along with the Queens to make sure he doesn't lose flat out here, but I love the fact that Jamesykins is committing heavily to Banelings. That's allowing him to really force Phamut back, and all of his Zerglings preventing them from going for any run-bys.
And Phamut's actually down in supply substantially at the moment. It's 92 to 67. He's going to get chased back towards his natural expansion. The Mutas will be able to come in and help, but there are some Spore Crawlers already on the way. He's going to try and mitigate this by going for the full-on power approach with a lot of those Banelings. And here we go. The third base from Phamut under attack and no Mutas in sight. 11 on the way, but will they get out in time?
Well, even when those 11 come out, they have all got to get to the same place at once because they've come in a few at a time. They will get picked apart. The Muta count now exactly equal for these two players. It is pretty bold, but the Spore Cord are really doing a lot to help. The Zerglings trying to take it out as quickly as they can, but as we're seeing, these Mutalisks are doing very well for Phamut, pushing Jamesykins back, and if he keeps this third up, he should be okay.
Those Mutas, Maddles, they were the definition of clutch, because I think, seriously, another 5 seconds or so, and Jamesykins would have picked off another Muta or two, simply because they weren't all together. That was about as close as you could have made it. Now, imagine earlier, while Phamut was going with his initial pack of links from the third base location to the natural of Jamesykins, imagine if he had put down his Spire as soon as his layer finished, and those Mutas were 20 seconds earlier still. Then we'd have a situation where basically Jamesykins wouldn't be on 9 worker kills right now, even though the work supply is equal, and Phamut would have actually been ahead.
He would have been. A big advantage for Jamesykins at the moment, though, is he does have +1 Flyer Carapace already complete and +1 Flyer Attack on its way. That upgrade advantage for Mutalisks is so huge, it really does make a big difference. Some Speedlings are trying to pick off Spore Corders at the third and are doing an okay job, but they're actually really winning this engagement just due to bad positioning out of Phamut at the moment, but the Mutas coming back should clean that up.
Total number of workers killed this game so far, now rising up to 11 for Jamesykins. He only has a worker supply lead of 1 at the moment, but that's because Phamut is just using his larva to try and replenish some of those workers. So Jamesykins right now feeling like he's comfortably ahead. We've got the +1 about to finish for Jamesykins as well, but like you mentioned, we do have the +1 Carapace complete already for both players. So those bounce glaives are going to do less and less damage.
And, well, both players with the armor, but Jamesykins has nearly got his attack complete. And here we go, we've got a Muta on Muta engagement right over the watchtower, and this is going to be really close, and it looks like Jamesykins will come out on top. He's currently got a 2 Muta advantage, and that's going to force him back.
It's so difficult to judge, especially if you're in a position where your upgrades are about to finish. So you could potentially goad your opponent into a situation where they have a Mutalisk advantage just by 1 or 2, but your upgrade is about to pop in about 10 seconds, and you start the engagement and finish it with the upgrade and power through. But it's so difficult to judge. You need to be clicking on your opponent's units, counting how many they have compared to what you believe you have on the field, and you have to do this in a split second before deciding whether or not to engage with those Mutas. Really tough situation to be in ZVZ.
It is a really tough situation to be in, and I really hope that Phamut can do something to counteract this, but as I'm seeing, just so many Mutalisks are coming out. The upgrade advantage there for Jamesykins, but only for a few more seconds. He's got precisely 45 seconds to do something good before it all levels out.
Exactly. Oh, and here come the Mutas from Phamut. Actually, Jamesykins moving away with his Mutas for now. Interestingly, despite having that upgrade advantage right now, I wonder if he knows about it. He's actually moving into the main base, going to try and decimate the mineral line here, and all of the Overlords are here as well. So,
and I'm surprised Jamesykins isn't going for this harder, because there's only a Queen and a Spore there. He could have just taken that head on, and with just so many Mutalisks, a couple of volleys would have been done, but both players tied up with 30 Mutalisks each.
I completely agree with you, Metals. I'm a little surprised. I would love to see Jamesykins duck in, kill off the Queen, maybe kill off the Spore, but definitely the Queen, and then just duck out, try and Larva Star Phamut just a little bit there. The 4th base now out and mining for Jamesykins. The work supply is 72 for our red player representing Infuse, and only 44 for Phamut. He has not been using his units to reinforce it all, and this is not a good engagement for Phamut here. Those drones underneath and the Zerglings, if you notice, Jamesykins' Zerglings underneath his Mutas, they're absorbing a lot of the bounce gauge attacks as well, and Jamesykins is going to run riot here.
He is, and there's the well played, only 18-5 Mutalisks at the end of that engagement. So Jamesykins will take game 3, taking the score to 2-1